Picture this. A beaten-up man sits in a stark interrogation room, casually feeding a stray cat while sporting cuts and bruises that tell quite a story. That's Hutch Mansell for you, and when the detectives demand to know his identity, he simply smirks and replies,
Me?
I'm nobody. Rewind a few days, and we see Hutch's life running like a broken record. Every morning, he drags himself through the same workout, catches the same bus to his soul-crushing office job, and consistently misses the garbage truck.
Come on!
It's almost comedic how predictable his life has become. At home, things aren't much better. His wife, Becca, a successful real estate agent, feels more like a roommate than a spouse. Their teenage son, Blake, barely masks his disappointment in his old man, while their little daughter, Abby, seems to be the only bright spot in Hutch's monotonous existence. Then comes the night that changes everything. During his routine bedtime check on the kids, Blake silently signals to his father about intruders downstairs. Hutch discovers a couple attempting a midnight shopping spree in his home. When the female burglar points her weapon at him, Hutch stays surprisingly zen, directing them to the kitchen's cash stash.
That's it?
I'll use a debit card.
They demand his jewelry, but he draws the line at his wedding ring. Apparently, some things still matter in his mundane life. Just when it seems the situation is under control, Blake decides to play hero and tackles the male intruder, showing off some impressive wrestling moves. As the woman advances with her gun, Hutch raises a golf club, then, mysteriously, lowers it without striking. Instead, he calmly tells Blake,
Let him go, son.
The burglar rewards this mercy with a punch to Blake's face before the pair makes their hasty exit, leaving behind a family shaken and a father's reputation in tatters. When the police finally arrive, they don't exactly give Hutch a hero's welcome. Instead, he gets mocked by both the responding officer and his own son, Blake.
You know, if that was my family...
The word coward hangs heavy in the air, and Hutch feels the weight of his inaction crushing down on him. At work, Hutch endures a painful conversation with his father-in-law, Eddie, about the incident. His brother-in-law, Charlie, shows up playing protector, trying to push a gun into Hutch's hands to keep Becca safe.
Keep my sister safe, bro.
Between these encounters, Hutch makes a bold move to buy Eddie's business, but gets shut down faster than a lemonade stand in winter. That night, Hutch makes a secret radio chat with his brother Harry, who's mysteriously off the grid. With the calm of someone who's seen more than he lets on, Hutch drops a bombshell he held back because he knew the burglar's gun was empty. Just a detail that makes his supposed cowardice a bit more interesting, right? A visit to his father David, a retired FBI agent now living in a retirement home, does little to settle Hutch's restless mind. He's trying to move on, really trying, but something keeps nagging at him. When his daughter Abby mentions her missing kitty cat bracelet, it's like a switch flips in Hutch's brain.
Where was it?
In here. They couldn't have stolen that.
What follows is a late-night mission that starts with Hutch borrowing his father's old FBI badge and gun, though David catches him in the act, and ends up in the shadier parts of town. Armed with nothing but the memory of a tattoo on one of the burglar's wrists, Hutch plays detective, hopping from one tattoo parlor to another. The real kicker comes when he finds the right place. The tough guys there try their intimidation routine until one spots something peculiar.
Agent Mansell, FBI.
What?
Your ID is a badge. Expired by about 20 years.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that ain't you in the photo. So, who are you?
A playing card tattoo on Hutch's wrist. Suddenly, the tough guy isn't so tough anymore, practically tripping over himself to get out. The tattoo artist, now significantly more cooperative, points Hutch toward his target. The search leads Hutch to a dingy apartment where he confronts the burglars, waving his gun with surprising confidence. But instead of finding Abby's bracelet, he discovers something unexpected.
Give me the goddamn kitty cat bracelet, mother...
The thieves are desperate parents with a sick infant. Their pleading eyes deflate Hutch's rage, leaving him to vent his frustration on an innocent brick wall outside in the rain. Fate, however, has other plans for Hutch's evening. While riding the bus home, a gang of drunk troublemakers stumbles aboard. When they start harassing passengers, particularly a young woman traveling alone, something snaps in Hutch. After quietly asking the bus driver to step out, he unleashes a side of himself that's been dormant for far too long. What follows is a brutal symphony of violence. Despite taking some solid hits, Hutch moves with deadly precision. Even a knife to his side doesn't slow him down. If anything, it seems to wake up something primal in him. When the thugs toss him through a window, he just dusts himself off and climbs right back in for more. The fight reaches its climax when Teddy, one of the gang members, grabs Hutch's dropped gun, but Hutch is quicker, snatching a metal pole and turning the tables with frightening efficiency. The beating he gives Teddy is brutal enough to crush the man's windpipe. Then, in an almost surreal twist, Hutch performs an impromptu tracheotomy to keep his victim breathing. Man, I miss Dr. Sean Murphy.
Sorry about the mess.
When Hutch finally limps home, he finds Becca waiting up. As she tends to his wounds, there's no shock or horror in her eyes, only recognition. She knows exactly who Hutch used to be, and watching her patch him up, he finally voices what's been eating at him, the distance that's grown between them. Inside a pulsing nightclub, we meet Yulian, a Russian mobster. During a meeting about the Obshchak, the Russian mafia's shared piggy bank, Yulian demonstrates his particular brand of leadership. When one shareholder gives him the wrong look, Yulian turns a broken martini glass into a weapon, leaving one less person to split the profits with. His associates raise their glasses in a macabre toast, seemingly impressed by his creative problem-solving skills. The party comes to an abrupt end when Yulian receives news about his young brother Teddy. At the hospital, he learns that Teddy's in a coma, and his reaction is exactly what you'd expect from a man who turns drinkware into deadly weapons. He questions Teddy's friends about the incident, desperate to identify the mysterious attacker. Meanwhile, Hutch gets an urgent call from his brother Harry with some unwelcome news. He's caught Yulian's attention, and that's about as safe as poking a bear with a stick. Harry directs him to seek out someone called the Barber for intel on Yulian. When Hutch arrives, the barber's waiting with a file that reads like a horror story, a detailed account of Yulian's crimes and assets. But Yulian's doing his homework too. His resourceful henchwoman starts digging into Hutch's past, using some compromising photos to blackmail a government insider. However, when she uncovers classified files revealing Hutch's history as a lethal government operative, she does what any sensible person would do, hands over the files and runs for the hills.
I'm out, no need to pay. Good luck.
Yulian, apparently not one to take hints, responds by mobilizing every thug on his payroll. The orders are simple: bring in Hutch alive. Ever had one of those dinner nights where uninvited guests show up? For Hutch, it's 3 cars full of armed men pulling up outside his house. With the instincts of someone who's clearly done this before, he hustles Becca and the kids into a basement panic room, because apparently that's a thing normal families have. What follows is a deadly game of hide-and-seek in the dark, with Hutch picking off intruders one by one. He's doing pretty well until someone zaps him with a taser. The gunmen toss him in their trunk, probably feeling pretty pleased with themselves. But here's the thing about putting Hutch in a trunk. It's like locking a locksmith in a room. He not only manages to pop it open, but gets creative with a fire extinguisher, turning the car's interior into a winter wonderland. The resulting crash leaves one of Yulian's men pinned under the car, giving Hutch just enough time for a deathbed confession. He reveals his former life as an auditor, the kind of hitman that makes other hitmen nervous. Racing home, Hutch calls his dad David with a heads up, then retrieves his family from their steel-walled hideout. He makes sure to shield little Abby's eyes from the massacre in their living room, after sending Becca and the kids to safety with a promise to come back that carries more weight than your average "be home for dinner." Hutch gets busy with cleanup duty, dragging bodies to the basement, including one surprisingly stubborn survivor. As he works, Hutch opens up about his last job. He was supposed to eliminate an embezzler, but the target's genuine remorse and plea for mercy struck a chord. Later, stalking the man he'd spared, Hutch discovered something unexpected. A happy family man living an honest life. Watching this reformed criminal living the dream sparked something in Hutch, a yearning for normalcy that led him to hang up his auditor hat and try suburban life. After turning his house into an impromptu bonfire, Hutch isn't done with his to-do list. He shows up at Eddie's business with a bag of gold bars, because apparently that's how Hutch does business transactions. Charlie, feeling threatened about his job security, tries to play tough guy, but ends up partially understanding who he's been messing with. Eddie, being the smarter of the two, happily accepts the golden handshake. With ownership secured, Hutch transforms the place into a deadly playground, rigging it with enough traps to make Home Alone look like amateur hour. But he's not done yet. He tracks down the Obstjak, the mob's precious money vault, and decides to give Julian's fortune a dramatic career change from cash to ash, leaving a trail of unconscious guards as a bonus. Meanwhile, at the retirement home, two of Julian's men learn the hard way that David didn't retire from being dangerous. When they try to surprise him in his sleep, the old man proves that age is just a number by greeting one with a shotgun blast and suffocating the other to death. In a move that screams, "I dare you," Hutch casually strolls into Julian's nightclub for dinner. When the guards surround him, he reveals his unusual choice of accessories, a C4 grenade attached to his finger. This gets him a private audience with Julian, where Hutch delivers the bad news about the Obstjak's fiery fate. Julian, unsurprisingly, doesn't take the news of his cremated cash well. What follows is a high-speed chase through the city streets, with Hutch playing Pied Piper to Julian's angry mob, leaving a trail of fallen gangsters as he makes his way back to his newly acquired warehouse. The stage is set for what promises to be anything but a normal business meeting. When the villains storm the warehouse, they find it's not going to be the easy fight they expected. Just as Hutch faces overwhelming odds, Harry and David make a surprise appearance to even the playing field. The trio turns the warehouse into a deadly obstacle course, leading Julian's men straight into their traps. Some thugs meet their end impaled by shooting metal bars, while others discover the explosive surprises Hutch left waiting. Finally, only Julian remains, spitting threats about going after Hutch's family. Big mistake. Hutch calmly takes the C4, sticks it to a bulletproof window, and charges at Julian. One pulled pin later, and Julian's reign ends against a wall. After thanking his family for their timely assistance, Hutch sends them away before the police arrive. He finds his feline friend from earlier and brings it along for the ride. Remember that interrogation room from the beginning? Now we're back there, with a bruised Hutch still maintaining his nobody status. Suddenly, mysterious phone calls change everything. The detectives have no choice but to let him go. 3 months pass, and life seems almost normal. Hutch and Becca are house hunting when another cryptic call comes through for him. The message isn't shared with us, but Hutch's reaction tells us all we need to know. Trouble isn't done with him yet. Their first question to the real estate agent:
Does this house have
a basement?
If you enjoyed unmasking the story of a nobody who turned out to be somebody very dangerous, hit that like button and subscribe. We've got more action-packed movie breakdowns coming your way.